You know, despite having a passing interest in Metroid for the longest time, I never beat any of the games until this month. I had NES Metroid on my 3DS as a kid, but I never remember playing it past, like, getting the Morph Ball. I think it was the passwords that were sort of the turn-off there. I always heard about Justin Bailey or whatever, but I was never sure how to type it in. I guess I was internet present enough to know about the general idea of it, but not enough to bother looking it up. It's weird, too. I always got my money's worth out of whatever I bought with my allowance on 3DS. That's why I've got such an affinity for Mario's Cement Factory now. I asked my parents for it because it had Mario in the name, and when I actually booted it up, I was so damn confused. Like, what the fuck, man? Ain't Mario supposed to be the jump guy? Why does he die when he steps off a platform at the wrong time? This is why the Game & Watch Gallery 4 version is better. Fuck, yeah. Or like, I wanted Flipnote so fucking bad as a kid, but it wasn't on 3DS at the time, so I begged my parents to buy me this weird knockoff version called Inchworm Animation, which was definitely supposed to be the more professional alternative. Yeah, sure, really hitting the target demographic for the shit on the DSi. I had a really hard time figuring out how to use the tools, and kinda still wish I had the real deal, but damn it if I didn't use it all the time. What? No. Whoa, who are these guys? I'm putting that in the video. There's these stock nature sounds that play on boot up, and I always think about Inchworm whenever I hear these anywhere else. Later on, for my birthday in 2017, I used some money I got to get the brand spanking new Metroid game at the time, Metroid Samus Returns. I heard it was a remake of the old Game Boy game, Metroid II, and that was enough to get me interested. I'd always heard Metroid II was the bad one, and like, yeah, obviously, it's gotta be. It's on the Game Boy. Even NES Metroid has to be better. I always wanted to like the weirdest entry in any series back then, and, well, some things never change, I guess. But just like last time, I barely played any of this one. I think my dad got more mileage out of it. He at least got to the Spider Ball. Well, fast forward to January of 2026, and Retro Achievement of the Week is for Metroid Fusion. Sure, I'll bite. I played up until getting the speed booster and thought, huh, this is actually pretty fun. I then ended up 100%ing the game. Yeah, pretty rapid progression there. Went from only getting the first power-up in the last two games to 100%ing this one in less than a week. I thought, well, if Metroid Fusion is this fun, I wonder if I can finally get into those other games now. I knew I still had Samus Returns lying around, but something about it just didn't sit right with me. I don't know, booting it up and walking around felt too good. In the back of my mind, the whispers of Metroid 2 being the bad one still lingered. And goddammit, it'd be really funny to say Metroid 2 for Game Boy was one of the only Metroid games I'd beaten. So, fuck it, I'm playing Metroid 2 for Game Boy now. And like, after beating it, I'm kinda disappointed. This is the game everyone said is the worst ever? This game was fucking awesome, what the hell, man? I can't believe some people on the internet would just say a game is bad because it's on lesser hardware than its contemporaries. That's just unheard of! I think I love Metroid 2 now. This game rocks, it's insanely impressive for the hardware. It's actually fun to play and builds tension and atmosphere astonishingly well. Like, a Game Boy giving me chills was not on my bingo card for 2026. I think this game is so misunderstood, and it's a damn crime that people have been dogging on it all these years. It's leaps and bounds better than Nestroid, that's for fucking sure. For one, you don't have to grind up all your HP 5 points at a time every time you die or load your save. And for two, this one's got hotter ladies! Many people's major complaint with this game is that there's no map. This is something people bring up a ton with Nestroid too, and I definitely get it. It's hard to remember where everything is, especially when everything is the same color. And to save on space, they had to reuse a lot of room layouts, which certainly doesn't help. I mean, in the item rooms, there's always a little spot you can blow up with a Morph Ball bomb, and sometimes there's just nothing down there. I think making your own map would be sort of fun in its own way. I've always really liked the idea of doing that. I played this Famicom RPG called Digital Devil's Story Megami Tensei a while ago, and while that game is well and truly a slog, I still had a lot of fun with it. My goal was to not use a guide for any of it, and while I only got up to the point of beating Medusa before quitting, it was still really fun drawing out and labeling my own maps of each area, writing down passwords, taking notes on what demons you can fuse to get other demons, slowly working my way through it that way. I did the same thing for Barbuda and UFO 50, and it felt super satisfying to finish the whole game that way. In fact, I got an even more classic experience with Barbuda because me and my friends were playing it at the same time and sharing information and ideas around in real time. Stuff like this can be really fun if you look at it in a certain lens, and yet so many people don't even try because, oh, it's not Super Metroid. Now I'm gonna discount my entire argument that I just made by telling you I just looked up a map for this game. Unlike something like Barbuda or DDSMT, Metroid's rooms aren't really cut up into perfect squares, and that makes it kinda hard to write up my own maps on grid paper. Additionally, sometimes areas and rooms overlap in ways that don't spatially make sense, which leads to shit like this happening sometimes. I tried doing this method for Metroid since you can at least see all of one axis of a room at a time, but even then my maps felt too sloppy for me to like doing it. Now try doing that on the screen cruncher of the Game Boy. So, I tried to make a compromise. There's a scan online of a full game map for Metroid II that was in Nintendo Power magazine back in the day, and this is the map I used for my playthrough. You can call it cheating, but it sort of still upheld that air of authenticity that I love so much. It shows where all the Metroids and collectibles are, so it helped a lot in finding out where to go, while still not spoiling some of the secrets, like how you're supposed to get to certain items. Metroid 2 takes a different approach to the progression that the first game laid the groundwork for. You're still hunting for missile tanks, E-tanks, and upgrades, but instead of targeting 2 specific bosses so you can go unlock the path to Mother Brain, you're here on a Metroid hunt. Yeah, you actually get to see the namesake of the game outside of the final area, unlike Nestroid. They've started evolving since the defeat of Mother Brain, however. Now you're facing all sorts of weird, mutated Metroids. You start off with Alpha Metroids that just sort of fly towards you, Gamma Metroids that start shooting beams, Zeta Metroids that hound you and shoot fireballs, and Omega Metroids that are the most aggressive of the bunch. And on top of that, they can only be hit with missiles. There's 40 Metroids in total, and this little counter in the bottom right ticks down for each one you defeat. I like this. It's a very tangible metric that does a good job showing how close you are to the end of the game. Sometimes when exploring, you'll find this nasty goop that kills the shit out of you if you step in it. After defeating every Metroid in the area, there'll be an earthquake, and this goop will drain, allowing you to access the next part of the game. I really like this. It's a very mysterious alien planet type of way to block your progression. Kinda makes you wonder how the Metroids are tied to the biology of the planet itself. In Samus Returns, they recontextualize this into a shrine that you fill with Metroid DNA over time, and to be honest, I don't really dig it as much. I can't really put my finger on why I feel this way, but there's just something cooler to me about the way that the earthquakes seem to randomly happen when you defeat the last Metroid in the original. I also really like that the mutated Metroids are only able to be hit by missiles. Missiles are very important in every Metroid game, but they're at their most vital here. If you don't have enough missiles, you have to run away from the encounter, and it feels like a real hunt to find them. Not a shitty, boring hunt like in Nestroid, because unlike that game, there are now refuel stations for both your HP and missiles. Easily the best addition over the first game, full stop. Enemies do still drop missiles and energy, but these stations are almost always your go-tos. Unlike Fusion, these stations aren't right next to save points either, you really gotta hunt for them. They don't usually even come in pairs. Sometimes the missile battery and the energy station will be in 2 completely separate areas, and they might just be guarded by a dangerous Metroid. I really like this. It raises the tension of seeking out these stations. You might have to fight a Metroid on your last legs, but damn does it feel so good to overcome that adversity. In my original playthrough, I had a moment where I'd gone a while without saving, had defeated a handful of Metroids, and I knew the energy refill station was behind one of them. I came out of the encounter with a measly 5 HP to my name, and it came down to my last fucking missile. Seeing my HP fill all the way back up after that was one of the best moments in pretty much any game for me. Sure, I knew where the refill station was gonna be because of the map, but it also meant that I knew there was a Metroid guarding it, which kind of made me dread going over there even more. Hey, speaking of tension, this game does a really good job of building it. The atmosphere on display here is kinda stunning for an early Game Boy game. It always feels really daunting going into a new area. Some areas have what feels like old temples or shrines in them, which I think is really cool. At least from what I've seen in Nestroid, there aren't really any structures in that game. Sure, you got Mother Brain's metallic base with the SpaghettiOs flying around, but that's basically it, and that's more of a base, not a building, if that makes sense. This is one aspect of Samus Returns that I actually really like. They make it a point to make these places feel even more grand. I especially like what they did with Area 2, with the huge waterfalls in the background. I think it looks sick as hell. This is kinda how I felt about Cave Story 3D. The original freeware Cave Story is a timeless classic, and probably still looks better overall, but I love the way that Cave Story 3D recontextualizes a lot of areas by giving them detailed 3D backgrounds. The scene with the flowers in the background of Mimiga Village is fucking ingrained in my head. It's such a striking image. People dog on Cave Story 3D way too fucking hard, man. It gets such a bad rep. It's not like you're starved for ways to play Cave Story on DS in its original form. There's both the DSi and 3DS ports, which are basically just Cave Story Plus without the higher res sprites as an option. People treat Cave Story 3D like it was such a disappointment. Like, aw man, it's such a shame they remade this game with kind of bad 3D models and janky animations. Like, dude, live a little. It looks kind of rough, but it's a fucking 3DS game. It's not gonna look perfect. What was I talking about again? Anyways, the classic thing people usually talk about with Metroid 2 in regards to how it does atmosphere is that it uses environmental storytelling a lot. You walk into a room and see a discarded Metroid shell on the ground, and that lets you know that there's going to be a mutated Metroid around here somewhere. That's cool and all, but there's a lot of other neat details I basically never hear anyone bring up. In Area 3, there's a part at the beginning where you have to morph ball through tight corridors, and it has ambience and fucking echo effects. Just listen. They use audio really effectively in this game in general. A classic complaint with 2TROID is that whenever you're low on HP, there's a constant loud beeping sound that gets really grating. I think they handled this idea really well in Metroid II. Instead of being a constant single tone, the intensity and volume of the beep dynamically changes with how much HP you have left. And if anything's gonna drain your HP, it's gonna be the Mutated Metroids. I touched on it briefly before, but I didn't go into a whole lot of detail on what each form is like. The Alpha Metroids are the easiest to deal with. They just kinda inch towards you slowly and have a big weak point on their belly that takes 5 missiles to defeat. In Samus Returns, they have this gross looking lamprey mouth, but in the official artwork for the Game Boy version, they look a lot cuter. I love these guys, they're awesome. You find Gamma Metroids next, and they're kinda the same. They inch towards you and shoot these little lightning beams at you when they get close. Their weak spot is on their front, making them almost a little bit easier to deal with than Alphas, though they take 10 missiles instead. Zeta Metroids are where they start to get a little bit fucked up though. I hate these guys. They hound you and don't give you any space, all while shooting projectiles at you. The fireballs don't do very much damage, but they can knock you around and make it hard to land your shots. They also do the swooping motion every so often just to fuck with your rhythm, and along with their annoying weak spot location and taking 20 missiles to defeat, it all adds up to a really frustrating time whenever you gotta deal with them. I seriously hate these things. Every encounter feels like a frantic slap fight until one of us is dead. I would say that this is like one of the only enemies in Metroid 2 that's just straight up not fun to fight. My best strategy was to morph ball whenever they're flying around to avoid the contact damage, then once they shoot their fireball, you nail them with a missile while they're sitting still. As for the swooping attack, I don't know man, just hope they don't do that I guess. Then there's their final stage, the Omega Metroid, and I love how these guys are introduced. You find a newly metamorphized Alpha Metroid in this random room with another empty Metroid shell next to it. After defeating it, you get another earthquake signifying that the path forward is open, but once you backtrack, you find you've been locked into the small circle area by the goop that's always blocking your path. Loop back around to where you fought that Alpha, and... this little moment was so fucking cool. It's a total subversion of how the game has been treating the progression with the earthquakes, and they only do it once. The Omega Metroids are brutal too. They take 30 damn missiles to defeat, and they'll kick your ass if you're not careful. Once you defeat the last Omega, however, you reach the final stretch of the game, and it's probably my favorite part. You defeated 39 of the 40 Metroids, and there's just one left. You can tell the game is coming to a close because after space jumping to the top of this huge cavern, you enter a metallic layer kind of place. There's a couple other alcoves you can space jump to as well, and one of them contains a Chozo statue holding an ice beam. Only thing is, the statue's been decapitated. Whatever's up here, it don't like the cold. Needless to say, this upcoming area has a thick fog of danger around it. As you proceed upwards, the music gets more foreboding, and you spot a strange-looking egg. And then... up to this point in the game, this counter has only ever gone down, and it only does so after the relief of defeating a Metroid. The game then takes that security away from you completely out of the blue. It gave me real, actual chills the first time I saw it. In Samus Returns, they gave it this fancy cinematic cutscene, and it's a complete miss for me. It barely gives any time to sink in what's happening before they shove a Metroid in your face. In the Game Boy version, they give you a room to let it register that the Metroids are rapidly multiplying and you're not in the clear yet. The way they ramp up the creepiness in the music is also really effective in amplifying that tension. Something about creepy chiptune music is really unnerving to me. It also doesn't help that the classic Metroids are easily the most stressful enemy to deal with in this game. They relentlessly pursue you, even targeting through walls, and will latch onto you and drain your HP if they touch you. The only way you can get them off is with bombs, but it's really inconsistent and can feel like random chance whether you shake them off or not. And even then, sometimes in the panic in the moment, you can't quite get an ice beam shot off on them and they latch onto you again. It's a really stressful feeling to watch your HP drain while you frantically try bombing the Metroid in every which way, just wanting to get them off of you. Even though I had a map for this area, I was still gritting my teeth as I slowly moved forward, shooting ice beam shots into the darkness to try and get a good surprise shot in. It's so fucking tense, I love it! Then, after once again getting that counter down to 1, you arrive at the very core of the Metroid layer. You can hear alien roaring coming from below. You proceed forward the only way you can, and you're dropped right in front of the Metroid Queen herself. She can only be hit by missiles, and she attacks by jutting her head out at you. If you shoot a missile into her mouth while it's open, she'll be stunned for a bit, and you can really lay into her with the missiles. However, there's another option that's even more effective. If you go into Morph Ball while her mouth is stuck open, you can roll inside. You take constant damage while you're inside the Queen Metroid, but if you roll into her stomach and plant a bomb, she'll cough you back up and take a fuck ton of damage. It's kinda hard to do, but if you get it right, it makes for such a sick moment. Otherwise, though, I don't know, it's just a little underwhelming. If you have all 5 energy upgrades, you can pretty much just hug the right wall and spam missiles at her with no opposition. And sometimes she spits out these little ball things that feel impossible to avoid. Kinda just feels like a slap fight. Either way, get the last hit in on her and she evaporates. Walk to the next room and you'll see that egg from earlier. It hatches into a baby Metroid. This thing is vital to the story of many later Metroids, and it first appears here. The hatchling will clear out these special diamond blocks for you, and it's sort of a serene moment. After all the stress of the last segment of the game, the little cries of the baby Metroid are almost a relief to hear. On top of that, pretty much any other Metroid game has a timed escape sequence after the final boss, but you can just kinda take your time here. It gives you some time to process what all just happened and be relieved that it's over. You take the hatchling back to your ship, and that's game. Dude, I fucking loved Metroid II. Something about the way that it's presented on the hardware makes it feel so eerie and unnerving, and there's so much love and care put into building that atmosphere. On top of that, it's just a fun game. It feels so polished compared to its predecessor, and still feels surprisingly great to play. I'd say the only movement option I always felt like I was missing from later Metroids was being able to press A while in a neutral jump to go into a somersault. There were times where I'd get hit out of my space jump and I'd have to fall all the way back down, which could get a little annoying. But like, that's a pretty minor complaint in the grand scheme of things, and I can kinda look past it. I actually wanted to bring up a couple other things I couldn't find a place for elsewhere in the video. First, I love Spider Ball. It gives you so much freedom to go anywhere you want, and they give it to you pretty early on, certainly way before Space Jump. It's probably my favorite power-up in the whole series. It's so much fun to crawl around and see what random places you can get into. In Samus Returns, they introduced these gunk walls that you can't Spider Ball on, and it kinda kills it for me. Like, my favorite part of Spider Ball is that you can use it anywhere. That's the best feature. I also really like the inclusion of Spring Ball, another Morph Ball related power-up that lets you jump when you're curled up. Using bombs to jump is admittedly cooler, but Spring Ball is an optional power-up that's only there if you go seeking it out. It's a reward that's meant to make your playthrough easier if you take the time to find it. I love the 1-2 combo of using Spring Ball to jump up to a ceiling, then immediately using Spider Ball to stick to it. It's really satisfying to nail. The way you get it is really cool too. At first it looks like a normal item room, but when you shoot the orb the Chozo is holding, a monster pops out instead. This is Arachnus. You might recognize that name if you've played Fusion. I know I sure did. I played this game fresh off the heels of that one, and it was really cool seeing this first incarnation of a boss I thought it was original to Fusion. Speaking of stuff that's optional, I didn't even realize the high jump boots weren't necessary during my first playthrough. I only found that out when I was going for a sub 3-hour run for the best ending, and made it to the final area before realizing I didn't have it. There's also 6 total E-tanks, even though your HP can only be increased 5 times. I guess it's meant as a safety net in case you can't find one of them, which is cool. One last thing, I know that I've been bringing up Samus Returns as a comparison point throughout this whole video, but there's actually another Metroid II remake. No, that's not just me stating a fact, that's actually its name. I've always kind of wondered where that name comes from. It implies that, like, fan remaking Metroid 2 was a popular thing to do back then, and AM2R was just another Metroid 2 remake. I've heard tons of great things about AM2R. Even my friend who's a huge Metroid freak says it's her favorite 2D Metroid, and that it's way better than any of the Nintendo ones. I definitely plan to check it out next, but it won't change the fact that the original Metroid 2 for Game Boy will always hold a special place in my heart. If you've heard bad things about Metroid II, or any other game for that matter, don't let that affect your enjoyment of it. You don't know until you've given it a try for yourself. You might just end up loving something that you've been told is terrible your whole life. The only exception to this is cigarettes. Anyways, the classic thing people usually talk about with Metroid 2 in regards to how it does atmosphere is that it uses entire mental storytelling. I came out of the encounter with a measly 5 HP. It's HP. My goal was to not use a guide for any of it, and while I only got up to the point of beating Medusa before quitting, it was still really fun drawing out and labeling my own maps for each area, writing down passwords, taking notes on which demons you can fuse to get other demons. Oh my god! I tried doing this method for Nestroid since you can at least see all of one axis at a room at a time. Oh, I gotta sneeze. There's a scan online of a full game map for Metroid 2 that was in Nintendo Power magazine back in the day. And the alpha Metroids are the easiest to deal with. They just kind of inch towards you slowly and have a big wink point.